Thank you for coming to the most exciting session. Obviously, the amount of empty seats won't let you to believe that it's the most exciting session, so I might be a little biased, but we're going to make it pretty action-packed because we're excited about what's coming in finance and operations. All the work that we've done over the course of the last 6 months and the next year, we'll walk you through all the gory details here in a ton of slides and some demo. I'm kidding. I think what we're going to do for the most part in this session is we'll set the stage on the core areas and the themes of investments that we've made in the product over the course of the last year and kind of how we're thinking about where we invest looking forward. And then we're going to spend a bunch of time in demos with Kevin so you actually see what we've done in real life action. And then we have a customer that we're going to invite on stage so you can actually hear the experience and the results of what they've gone through in deploying finance and operations in their organization as well. And then ideally, we actually want to save some time for questions and answers as well at the end. Before we get going, I do want to ask as to the level of familiarity people have with finance and operations. So maybe by show of hands, how many people don't have any experience with finance and operations that are here? Okay, that's good. How many of you have experience with AX 2012 or AX 2009, one of our prior versions, or are implementing or using it right now? Okay, a fair bit. And then the rest, I presume, by show of hands, are either evaluating, deploying, or using Dynamics 365 for finance and operations now? Good, and then a bonus question. How many people have already visited Disneyland? That's an optional one, you can skip that one. My son wants pictures, he's 6 years old. He's like, where are the pictures of the Disneyland theme park? Because he thinks that's what I'm doing here all day. What he doesn't realize is I'm just stuck in a conference room and then occasionally on a stage here. So anyhow, thanks for coming. For those that aren't familiar with finance and operations and what it does, I've got one slide for you, and then we're still going to keep it fairly high level in terms of what's coming beyond what we already have in the product. But finance and operations, if you're not familiar with it, is our Dynamics 365 application that addresses essentially what we refer to as the operations blade of the digital transformation blade, which helps organizations optimize their operations, kind of how you run your business. And the way we optimize operations, or at least the way we kind of group the functional capability or the application area of the product, is into largely 4 buckets. One of them is the finance area, which is covered by accounts receivable, accounts payable, cash management, bank management, and fixed assets. Then we've got fairly deep manufacturing capability. So if you're a manufacturer and you want to run your manufacturing operations on Dynamics 365, we can do discrete manufacturing, process, lean, mixed mode, and a bunch of different stuff as well in the application. On the other side, we've got deep supply chain management capabilities, including warehouse management and transportation management as well. And then finally, we've got a set of capabilities for retailers as well, where you can run your store operations as well as essentially any channels on Dynamics 365 as well. So finance and operations is our affectionate name for all the capabilities that is kind of bundled together in it that can provide business value and kind of the capability for you to run your operations. Why we're really proud of finance and operations is really how we've gone about building the product and the service, if you will. One of the core things that we did as we moved from AX 2009 and AX 2012 to finance and operations, for those that either are using it or have experience with our prior product, is we obviously completely redid the platform for it to be a cloud-native application from a SaaS perspective when we brought it over to Dynamics 365. However, at the same time, we actually brought over the depth and the breadth of the application logic entirely, almost entirely the breadth of the application logic that we had in our AX 2012 version onto the cloud version as well. So customers that actually wanted cloud as an offering or ERP as a SaaS service can benefit from the depth of the application that they were used to or we had in AX 2012. We didn't do that in a piecemeal fashion that some of our competitors are doing it. And that allows you to be able to get a ton of benefit from finance and operations just out of the gate. The other thing that we have now started doing is continuous updates. So we've come up with an implementation model and an extension model that still allows you and preserves full adaptability to what you would like the application to do in case we don't meet all your business requirements out of the box. So you can extend it and enhance it and add ISV solutions. We've got a really robust ecosystem of ISV solutions that take what we have and kind of create either vertical specific solutions or solutions that can address business needs out of the box for you. We've come up with an implementation model that allows you to both enhance and leverage the ISVs, yet protect you from having to go through costly upgrade cycles when we release updates from a Microsoft perspective, and that's a continuous update piece. So you can stay essentially on an evergreen ERP with the right commitments from us that it'll be backward compatible to any updates that we do. There's going to be no breaking changes, and if there are breaking changes, we'll obviously issue the right amount of notification for you to be able to do any refactoring that you have to do. So that continuous update is extremely important, particularly in the cloud world. From that standpoint, and coming from an engineering guy, it's going to sound like a sales and a marketing speak, but we do truly believe, and this is where we think we are, is this would be the last ERP implementation you'd ever have to do, or the last upgrade you'll ever have to do, because the experience from this point onwards would be a continuous update experience from our perspective that wouldn't require, obviously you should do some validation if you're running your core validation systems if you'd like, and hey, for those we're going to provide automated tools as well. But you should be able to take the updates in a frictionless manner and stay current from a platform standpoint. We do provide lifecycle services, so not just the business application capabilities, but a robust lifecycle services solution, an ALM tool that actually allows you to kind of model your business processes and go through the implementation experience in an efficient way, as well as post-implementation use the same ALM tool, which we call lifecycle services, LCS, to both monitor, get visibility into how your service is running, and for those that are able and capable and want to, you can actually take some actions over the health and the tuning of your service, as well as remediation that you want to do if things aren't going well. We'll obviously do that for you, but for those that actually are looking still for some level of visibility and control, we do provide that through this, what we believe is best-in-class and world-class ALM tool in lifecycle services. All of that is goodness, but the thing that I'm really super proud of, particularly being on the engineering side, is in a cloud world, how do we get the feedback in a real-time fashion from end users? And how do we kind of take that feedback to shape our future roadmap and investments? And that's kind of what we call NPS-driven engineering. NPS stands for Net Promoter Score. And we actually have a pop-up, for 2% of our customers or end users, they feel it's really annoying to ask them how things are going. The other 98%, thankfully, are giving us some really good feedback in terms of what they think of the application, where could we do things better. And believe it or not, we actually go through an excruciating level of detail, read through all the comments, and obviously look at the rating, and then shape our engineering plans to take that feedback and make the product better for the end user's experience, right? Because obviously from an ERP perspective, the management is expecting a certain kind of benefit at a corporate level, and those are generally happier, but the end user, the AR clerk or the warehouse worker, ends up being a little bit unhappy if he or she has to do a few extra clicks. But those are the people that we're listening to, because we want to make their lives and their experience in the application a ton more delightful. And we, as Microsoft, as you would imagine, spend a ton of energy really listening to that feedback and making those improvements. And we will actually show you today what some of those changes are that are coming in the fall update, and then we've got a series of things planned over the course of the next few updates as well. Fast Track. This is another concept where, from a Microsoft standpoint, particularly for those customers that did AX 2009 and AX 2012, you're probably familiar with an experience that when you bought the product, if you bought it from Microsoft, we were there, but then you kind of went on to the implementation cycle. Microsoft was probably nowhere to be found. If you had a support case, you logged it, it went through the front line, and then on a quarterly basis, they would kind of summarize where the issues were, come to the engineering team and say, hey, you should make this area better. And we'd say, fine, we'll take that under advisement. And we had 3-year release cycles, and we'll say, great, we'll make it better in 3 years or something like that. I exaggerate a bit, obviously. This is exaggerated for the sake of dramatic effect. I don't see anybody smiling, so I might have lost you guys there. But what we're doing in a cloud world is, from an engineering perspective, we're providing a solution architect that's engineering-based through your deployment cycle. That program's called Fast Track. Office 365 started it. And what that means is, as you're starting your journey in deploying Dynamics 365 for finance and operations, you will get a solution architect from the engineering organization assigned to you to help you make sure you get to usage, i.e. value, as quickly as possible in a highly predictable way. You obviously need the partner still, but this is Microsoft's skin in the game to make sure you are successful. The reason why we do that, obviously we're still a for-profit company, the reason why we do that is you getting to value is highly important for us because in a cloud world, in a subscription world, we want you to stay on get to usage and value as quickly as possible, because then it becomes a lot more stickier and chances are you're going to stay on longer. If it takes you 2 years to deploy and a painful experience, you may or may not be there by the time you get to go live, right? So we want to make sure, A, you get there, B, we really want the feedback as well so we can make the product better. And we're releasing the product twice a year, in April and in October. And we really want to do things that our customers can actually use soon as we release. Not things that we release out there and they sit out there and nobody's really using. So we use this as a listening mechanism to shape our priorities as well, from an engineering perspective. And then finally, the breadth of the platform, right? The Power Platform on top of Common Data Services, as well as the rest of platform from an Azure perspective. So it's a service that's natively built on Azure, and we take advantage of the thousands and thousands of engineers that are available in Azure doing the Power Platform work, essentially the Office work as well, and light that up as a first-party experience. So these are the things that we're generally really proud of, and you'll see this as areas of investments as well, or data signals that help us prioritize where we invest from an engineering perspective. Our key themes for fall are really largely around 4 buckets: intelligence and insights, connected processes, core capabilities, and fundamentals. We'll take a quick walk through all of them, but I'll just kind of differentiate a few things here. When we talk about fundamentals in a cloud world, that's just a ton of continuous investments around performance, around reliability, around compliance, around security, around privacy, and a bunch of different things. User experience falls into the same bucket as well. That is a huge area of investment for us. That will continue to be a huge area of investment for us for a long period of time, particularly in a cloud service. We'll continue to update new technologies, new architectures that come in place, all if it adds value to your experience, both from a usability perspective as well as a scale perspective. Core capabilities is a placeholder for feature function enhancements that we're making to the application. Connected processes is, if you think about the Dynamics 365 set of applications, Dynamics 365 for sales, service, and marketing, or what used to be CRM in the pre-Dynamics 365 world, it's making sure that those experiences are connected natively as a first-party experience from Microsoft to you. For those that have kind of been with us in this journey in the AX CRM days prior to Dynamics 365, we talked about the applications being connected, but we didn't really have a fairly compelling first-party solution out there for it. This is making sure this is a core pillar for us from a product truth standpoint, that we will provide you those native experiences, those connected processes across applications, so you can truly realize the benefit of one Dynamics 365. And then intelligence and insight is then kind of where we take the application from an AI perspective, where we add some of the cool tech that's coming out from an ML perspective. How do you leverage IoT, bots, and things like that? A lot of that is work in progress for us. And you'll see us kind of over a period of time invest more and more in this area. So you as a customer really don't have to have an army of data scientists or a lot of tech people to be able to kind of go hardwire this. We'll kind of provide these embedded in-context experiences that are enriched by machine learning algorithms, or give you a framework to have IoT devices that can feed data that you can take action on from the application, as opposed to having to hook it up and wire it up as a sort of an integration exercise of your own. We'll take a quick walk through. I won't go through each of the bullets in each of the 4 areas, but we'll start with core capabilities. Core capabilities for us is an area we're investing heavily in. We've invested heavily this year and will continue to over the course of the next year. And we're doing it 2 different ways. We're doing it organically, obviously through our own engineers, and dual currency is a great example of that, which for our global customers brings the ability for you to have a secondary accounting currency through your finance operation, so you can get a view of that in another currency if you need to from a regulatory or from a reporting perspective. So we've got that coming in the fall update, but we've also made significant inorganic improvements to the application as well, via announcing some acquisition of rights to IP of our most popular ISV solutions that were built or are built on the finance and operations platform. So for you as a customer, it's really the same experience. The 3 in the finance space that we've announced over the course of the last 5-6 months that will really become just natively available to our customers in the application over the course of the next few months are revenue recognition, which brings compliance to IFRS 15 from Armanino, enterprise credit solution from Sable 37, and then public sector capabilities from Tyler Technologies as well. The good news with this is, A, you get the application breadth, but from a total cost of ownership perspective, these are some of our more popular ISVs that will now be available to you in your subscription without any additional charge from Microsoft. So we're actually investing, listening to you as to where you're using ISVs, and kind of closing those gaps natively in the application. On the supply chain side, we've made some announcements around advanced warehouse and advanced transportation capabilities from our ISV partner, Blue Horseshoe, as well as completing the catch weight solution for our process manufacturing customers with an ISV solution that we're acquiring, or the rights to which we're acquiring from Fullscope. On the connected processes side, we've shipped we're doing it in a sort of two-pronged strategy. We are shipping out-of-the-box templates that connect natural processes across the Dynamics 365 boundaries. So order to cash, we already shipped about a year ago. We continue to enhance it with additional entities that are out there. Then we've also released field service to finance and operations, project service to finance and operations, and talent to finance and operations as well. So, we're from a template perspective, we're predefining which entities go where and how does the process work. For example, in the order to cash one, the customer is mastered in Dynamics 365 for sales. That's kind of where the sales order starts, and then it comes to finance and operations for fulfillment, as you would imagine. But the tooling that we're using to build these templates, called Data Integrator, is built in a way and is available to you, again, at no charge, in a low-code, no-code fashion, that if you have additional entities, or if you actually have a process that doesn't follow what we believe you should follow, you can go configure and set it up in whichever way you would like. So we're bringing both an out-of-the-box experience as to how the process should work, but hey, if you happen to have something that's unique, you can use the tool to do it in a configurable way, as opposed to what today is generally a developer experience or an ISV solution that you need to acquire to kind of have the two applications connect in a seamless way. On the intelligence and insights, distributed order management is kind of one I'll highlight, and we talked about this yesterday if you were in this session, the keynote that we did with Mike Ehrenberg, which brings in intelligent fulfillment of orders coming from multiple channels with a single view of your inventory, your stores, your fulfillment options, with a set of configurable rules that allows you to ship it from the most cost-effective, most expedient place to fulfill the customer order to obviously get better customer satisfaction as well as reduce costs to your business as well. And then we've got a few additional capabilities around how do you deal with analytical workspaces. We're providing additional capability there, pinning Power BI dashboards and so forth. On the fundamental side, I've kind of touched on this quite a bit, but usability enhancements, personalization, a lot of automation around, a lot of self-service capabilities in our ALM tool, Lifecycle Services again, as well as we've released new localizations for United Arab Emirates and Russia. Test automation tooling I talked about, which now allows you to use task recorder that's available in the application to essentially as a tool for you to record functional regression testing that you can kind of do a one-click experience with to see as you take the updates, did it break anything or not, as opposed to having you either buy an ISV solution or get people in a room to go through the validation. I'm going to take a quick breather here, hand it over to Kevin. What we're going to show you today is going to be more focused around the fundamentals improvements that we've done. And the reason why we're doing it, because Kevin also did 2 demos yesterday. If you happen to be in the keynote session that James Phillip did, he did a demo of finance and operations there, amongst other things. And then in the Mike Ehrenberg, the Dynamics 365 keynote, we went deeper into distributed order management. So we're not going to repeat that for 2 reasons. 1, if you were in it, you probably don't want to see it again. And 2, if you weren't in it, that's available online for you to go see it. So we wanted to kind of create net new surface area for you to be able to get a view on what the application can do. So with that, I'll hand it over to Kevin.
Great, thank you. So, pulling on what we've just heard, I'm going to focus in on 3 aspects in effect. So the first aspect I'm going to dive into is going to be around the lifecycle services. And I'm thinking particularly around self-service and how we are looking to help complement what we're going to be doing with the continuous updates. I'm then going to focus in on the usability enhancements. I'm going to do a little bit of a comparative side by side. And then I'm going to dive deeper into what we're doing around the workspaces and the embedded Power BI. So, on screen at the moment, I have a project from within Lifecycle Services, and I'm sure because I've got a mixture of people, hopefully everybody has seen Lifecycle Services at some point. I know we have some 2009 customers here, but Lifecycle Services is our platform for delivery, and I'm showing you a production environment which has a production environment, a user acceptance test environment, and a development environment. Now, historically, until quite recently, well, until this release in effect, we would require a lot of manual activity by yourselves, or we would require you to make a request to Microsoft to do some kind of key tasks that would help your deployment. And I'm thinking around certain things like moving data between these environments. I'm thinking about how we might restore data. And I'm thinking about how we might go about doing particular tasks like restarting the batch service. Well, in addition to helping everybody as we go through the process, what we've done, when you're looking at a particular environment now, under the maintain options, there's some additional menu choices. And these menu choices that I'm going to focus in briefly around is the restart and the move database, which are kind of key for our deployments and how we wish to work. So for instance, historically, if I needed to do a restart, I'd have needed to have contacted Microsoft to run a different process. But now, with the batch option here, you can see I can go off, click the batch, or I could go down and change to reporting service, or I could come across and restart IIS. So that self-service aspect is brought into your control during that process that you'll be working through, perhaps with a partner as well. And equally, there's also the movement of data between the environments that's kind of key as well. So, how do we refresh data? How do we import data? And, exporting of data, restoring to a point in time, to an extent, these would all have been manual tasks that would have had to have occurred prior to this release. Now we're at a point where, by taking advantage of these menu options, you have this kind of control. So it's enabling a lot more self-service, a lot more control, and helping everybody through that continuous update cycle. So these are some fundamentals in terms of the deployment usability aspect. Now, if I come up a level and think about the client and what changes we've been making there, and I think a lot of the changes I'm about to highlight have come through the MPS feedback loop that we've now got in place. I've got in front of us an addition of finance and operations, which I'm sure you're all used to, and if you've seen this deployment, this is about a 7.3 release. But I'm also going to bring up on the screen our 4 release, and I'm going to put them side by side. And immediately, we could start to see a few subtle differences in the user experience, very subtle. The workspaces are still there and still very relevant for us, but the fonts have changed, and that's starting to be more consistent with the wider Dynamics 365. But what I want to do is drill down into a couple of aspects side by side. So if I close up and just focus in on accounts receivable alongside one another, everything is looking pretty much the same. But as we start to go deeper, and we start to think about perhaps the first tier of change, we can focus in on perhaps the filter, and the filter component that we're using is now subtly different. Yes, you can immediately see things are in a slightly different order side by side, but the feedback we've got is that if I kind of do a little search against a field there and a comparative here, suddenly we've got a lot more information being presented back to a user. So rather than just the account code, the name, the account number, etc. coming through, we've now got the broader information when we're looking for a simple search, which makes life a little bit easier as we're kind of searching for something. And if I delve deeper in, there's a couple of more subtle points here in terms of how we are using finance and operations. And then this would relate even back to when it was 2009. On the left-hand side is the older version, and we've got the control in place to warn us to go and click edit in the top of the form to make a change on screen. With the new release, we can go straight to a particular field and now make a change in that field, and that makes the whole form active for editing. And that's kind of like the feedback that we had received guiding us in terms of how we should kind of improve that usability aspect. And there's also some other subtleties going on here as well. Like, for instance, at the top above the ribbon, the color change is kind of significant as well. From the usability material I've read, it was customers were finding that their minds were blocking out that blue bar at the top. Whereas if we bring it in as part of the form experience, it makes it more intuitive. And it's a simple little feature change, but it makes a difference to how we are using the application. And then we can go even deeper into perhaps a transaction list and side by side, and we can start to see, yeah, the grid controls look very similar, but if I then delve deeper into it and do a little bit comparative side by side here, we're starting to see some additional options are now available for us. And this is that principle of I think we call it a citizen developer. So we're now moving away from that need to have a fully fledged aware developer of how we would go off, build out in Visual Studio, etc. We can, as individuals, now have control about how we may wish to control an individual form, and in the context of being able to add or hide. So, for now, I can, in effect, remove away the old edition, and I can perhaps come across and add a column into my grid control of the list of transactions that I've got in front of me. And the process is fairly straightforward. I go through the motions of confirming which table I would like this to relate to. I can need to give it a name, so I'm going to go very straightforwardly with my initials, because I'm a citizen developer, so I don't follow the correct principles. And I'm going to do something of that nature, confirm the length, save and new, and it's going to go through, and you can see it's adding it into the table for me, which can then be made available throughout the whole application from a reporting's perspective, and that'll come through accordingly. And equally, the same process is there from the perspective of wanting to, so you can see my little Orlando is on the right there. But if I also wanted, and I won't, but if I wanted to hide away the amount column, I have the option to do so. And I've picked amount on purpose because there is also now the scope to hide away mandatory fields. So you can also improve the transactional flow and hide away aspects that perhaps weren't necessary because they were being pre-populated. So with that in mind, I'm now going to come up a little level, and I'm now going to think about the workspaces. And I'm going to think about the workspaces from a perspective of what are they? So we've got the aspect in terms of operational use of a workspace, and those workspaces we would be used to in terms of, say, purchase order preparation, where we are doing something on a day-to-day activity. One of the workspaces aspects is that we've got operational activity, but we can also embed analytics into them as well. So an example of that is a new edition we've just had for this particular fall release, which is the expenses aspect. So from an expenses perspective, we can, in effect, now look at our expenses from an analytical perspective as an individual, but we also have an administrative perspective to it as well. So as an individual, I could have this particular view that's going to pop up in just a moment. And it's going to reflect, what is my expense history, what am I spending my expenses on in terms of a pattern, whether it be hotels, airfares, etc. And from a managerial perspective, we could also start to go deeper and broadly compare myself, perhaps Kevin, to the rest of my team. Is Kevin's airfares higher than the rest of his peers, etc. Or what exceptions may be surfacing. So from an administrative perspective, we're starting to see a lot more information. And this is a new addition within the fall release. Now, what's also kind of key about all this is that to date, these analytical workspaces have been deployed with finance and operations, and we couldn't edit them. But now, we are actually now enabling the ability to edit and take the full power of Power BI with us. So, for instance, just to highlight that it's not just part of that workspace, I'm just going to switch across to the credit control workspace, and there's an analytics area here. Now, within this one, I can now go up to the options, and within the options, I can click option. You can see I've got Power BI. I can edit analytics, all companies. And now I'm in the Power BI. So I've got all the power of Power BI. So if you have chosen that you don't actually like the pie chart on the right here for that we ship, then that's okay. You can switch it across to perhaps something else. If you wanted to extend the content that is here, then we can do that as well. So we can click on the bottom there, and we can take full advantage. And I think this is one of the aspects that's really important, is you're now starting to see the data model in a very effective, useful way. So from a reporting's perspective here, we can start to kind of delve into, the balances, the aging histories, and so forth. And, if I was to perhaps put a grid across here, and I can start just clicking through a few items here, you can start to see it's building out the content for me. And at the end of this, and I'm not going to go too far because otherwise I'll get carried away, but you could start to see the sense and the power of this. So I can save this back, and then that's then available to everybody that is using that particular analytical workspace. So I've in effect covered 3 areas there. I've covered the fundamentals of how we're helping with the self-service. I've kind of covered some fundamentals about how we're improving the usability, and I've expanded upon how we're extending Power BI.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. So in terms of how the success that we're seeing in the market for finance and operations, we're really super proud in terms of the adoption that we've already seen. I literally got into trouble after our Inspire conference in June because I ended up sharing some numbers in terms of the number of customers we had, the number of users and stuff like that. So now I've been instructed we don't do that as Microsoft, so I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to contain that excitement, but you just have to trust my word for it. This thing's just really doing extremely well globally across all functional workloads, so manufacturing, SCM, warehouse management, finance, and SI. And you can see some of the logos that are already deploying or using finance and operations as well. We've done some studies now since we're about 2.5 years old in the cloud when we launched the cloud service first with Forrester. Forrester does this total economic impact study as well. This is something that will be getting published here very shortly, so we're giving you a preview because we got this hot off the press last week. But it shows the kinds of impact in optimizing your operations that finance and operations can have once you get it deployed in your organization. So this study is an aggregate of 7 organizations that Forrester interviewed, 7 of our finance and operations customers that are using it in production. And you can see the return on investment that they're getting, the total net present value of the benefits, as well as kind of what that payback looks like. And this is just sort of an early view of our early customers as well, which we think is going to get even better as we kind of keep going and adding more capabilities that we talked about in the application just today. With that, I'm actually super excited, and I want to get to that portion as quickly as possible to invite Brad Kroll to the stage, who runs the IT organization for BJ Services. Please join me in welcoming Brad to the stage.
Thanks, Mohammed, for having me here today.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. First of all, first question, tell the audience what BJ Services is, what it does.
Sure. So we're an oil field services company actually based out of Houston, Texas. We used to be part of an organization called Baker Hughes, which is now part of the GE group. In late 2016, there was a decision made by the Baker Hughes organization to divest the pressure pumping division of Baker Hughes, which is a 145-year-old company. And so that's how BJ Services reemerged in the market as a new startup company in the oil field space.
Excellent. I'm super excited about this story. I already know all the answers, so this is going to look really staged. But tell us, Brad, what were the reasons that you went through the transformation, and what is it that you were looking for in a new system, the thought process, and then also give us sort of your first part of the journey as well, what it took you to get there.
For sure. So we had a very unique opportunity. It's not very often that you have a 145-year-old company that's a startup. And so when we started the organization, we were 50 employees, and we quickly grew to 5,000 employees, and we're just under $3 billion in revenue right now. And the legacy organization was actually on an SAP-based platform. So when we were defining what the IT footprint would look like for a go-forward basis for BJ Services, there was a number of decisions that we had to make. And so some of the fundamentals that we chose upon were being 100% cloud focused. So we're a 100% cloud organization. We have nothing on-prem, no on-prem data center. We also, wanted to do a full integration with the Microsoft stack and utilize everything from not only Dynamics 365, but Office 365, the Power BI platform from Business Intelligence. And so we thought that there would be huge value in basically extracting all the integration pieces between the Microsoft platform. And then the third part of our fundamentals were basically the partnership that we formed with Infosys to deliver a new model in the marketplace called IT as a service. And basically what that is is like taking all of our IT operations and outsourcing it to Infosys, both from an infrastructure perspective and from an ERP deployment. With the partnership through Infosys, in a matter of 6 months, we were able to build out an entire IT organization. So not just the infrastructure footprint, standing up a network, deploying all of the desktops and all that for 3,000 users, but we were also able to implement an entire ERP package in 6 months and migrate off of SAP platform, which made our users where they were hesitant because they were used to the SAP platform, but coming across to the Dynamics platform, it's been a true success story. I've been a part of many ERP implementations throughout the years, and I'm proud to say that it was probably one of the smoothest and seamless cutovers that we had from a legacy system to the Dynamics platform.
I mean, this part's phenomenal. For those that have gone through ERP implementations in 6 months coming from SAP for an organization that's big, it's kind of unheard of. But I think these are the kinds of things that we're listening and kind of helping our customers do in an efficient basis. Tell the audience a little bit about the complexity of the solution as well and kind of what you have, because it's not just finance and operations.
Yeah, for sure. So the solution is actually built out of the sales and marketing dynamics piece as well as the finance and operations piece. We built a complete opportunity cash lifecycle within the Dynamics platform in that time frame. So to give you perspective, the legacy organization that owned us, Baker Hughes, they had built out specific engineering calculations, job bidding systems for cementing and fracturing operations within oil and gas. And so we were able to take that legacy system and build it into the Dynamics platform, integrate it in with finance and operations, as well as the CRM piece, to basically have an entire opportunity cash lifecycle. So it includes supply chain and finance, and then as well too, we had a bolt-on from Microsoft through a partner called 2Increase to do the equipment maintenance piece of that as well. So our entire business is now captured in the Dynamics platform, which is really exciting because the seamless integration with all the other Microsoft products, Microsoft Power BI, and then as well too with the new Power Apps that have been released, we're now developing Power Apps so we can input data right into Dynamics directly.
That's awesome. So we are going to open this up for questions. So if you have questions, I suggest be thinking of them. There's some mics here in the different aisles. I'll ask, have a seat. I'll ask one more question to you while I let you guys warm up on questions. Hopefully you'll have some. So tell the audience about one thing that you're super proud of when you look back in your journey, as well as one thing that you learned that you'd say, hey, everybody should think about doing it this way.
For sure. So one thing that, I mean, just the acceleration to the cloud and the acceleration of building out an ERP platform in such a rapid deployment and having such a success in terms of cutover. And for many of those of you who've been a part of ERP go-lives, the minute that you flick the switch, there's mass chaos that ensues within the business because they can't close the books, or there's issues with inventory or warehouse management. And so the thorough process designs that we went through, so mapping out all of our business processes, having ownership from the business, a great partnership with Infosys in helping us design this system in partnership, and then the partnership from Microsoft, because we were a very early adopter. We were one of the first adopters of Microsoft's Dynamics 365 for sales and marketing and for finance and operations. We went live October 9th of last year, so it's just been on just over a year. And I'm happy to report that we just did the upgrade to the version 8 as well. And so we're starting to utilize all that functionality within 8 as well. So that's one thing that I'm extremely proud of, just how the organization has been so receptive to it. And the power that we're getting now through the analytics piece with Power BI has been just awesome. I mean, to have the business have insight into the data. Everyone always talks about the value of why you would implement an ERP. And I don't think many organizations truly get to that end goal where they can see the value being extracted through using their ERP. And we're truly getting that now by having visibility into our business and having the mobile aspect. So we had a model, any device, anytime, anywhere. So now I can pull out my phone, our executives can pull up Power BI and look at real-time statistics from our operations, and that's great. From things that I would encourage people to do when they're implementing an ERP system and going to a new version is make sure you have the right partnerships in place in terms of strategy. The partnership we had with Infosys was great in ensuring our success. They were awesome in terms of the resourcing that they provided. to us and their commitment to the project, and then also the synergies that we got with the business. So if you don't have a business that's completely bought in from the top levels, from your C level, so our chief operating officer, our chief financial officer, and from our CEO as well, made sure that each one of the business units committed. We called them, in the old school days, they called them super users. We rebranded it. We called them business process coaches. And then we built a community of those people out in order to embrace. And they help, build out the business processes and then get buy-in from our user community to adopt the new system. So, I mean, an ERP is only as great as long as the organization embraces it and uses it.
It's really great. Any questions in the audience?
Yes.
Yeah, please, if you don't mind.
Did you leverage change enablement in that process as well? Did you have team communicators, or no?
You mean like enhancement of the product itself?
No, change enablement to the company. So you said you had buy-in from everybody. Was that a change enablement management led, or was it?
Yeah, so we had exactly. We had a committee that was put together, and we had like an OCM group. You mean? Yeah. So so as part of the emphasis deployment practice, we developed an organizational change management group that helped us through that transformation and migration from our legacy SAP platform to the new Dynamics platform, and then adoption of that going forward. And then the first cycle, when we first set up the system, the first deployment was 6 months. I'm happy to report, we're on phase 3 of our development lifecycle. So we just finished phase 2 at the end of June. We did our upgrade to version 8, and now we have another year's worth of development. So phase 3 will go until the end of September 19. So the business is embracing it so much that they're saying, we want these enhancements. No different than Microsoft receives feedback from their clients. We're receiving it from ours. We want this functionality embedded in the system. We want to bring more feature-rich functionality. And so we have a roadmap that we've outlined now, and we're continuing to deliver with emphasis.
How have you dealt with the fact that there are people that are not adopting?
That are not adopting?
They are not adopting at all. Like they are used to their old version, paper-based, etc. I got through a change management from an industry, and I had 700 users, of which 550 were not eager to adopt, and that has been very, very painful. We did the implementation nevertheless, but that was much more painful. How did you deal with this kind of situation?
That's a good question. I would say that overall adoption was great. It's never going to be perfect. So now what we've done actually, and it's kicked off most recently, we've established a BPO group, so business process optimization team. That what they're doing is, because within a corporate head office, I work in the corporate head office, work with a lot of the directors, vice presidents, and above. You don't have visibility to the people that are actually hands on the system using it on a day-to-day basis in the field. So we've developed this business process optimization team that's now taking and going to each one of our districts and dealing with the people and understanding where there's gaps and how the system is being used, understanding where people aren't using the system correctly, and starting to drive the behavior of that and adoption into the system. And I mean, really, so that initiative was sponsored through our executive group as well to get that visibility right at a granular level, because the people in the corporate head office can't be in the field all the time. And then as well, the messaging's coming from above that this is an important initiative, that the ERP needs to be continued to be adopted. And, you're going to eventually weed out those people that that are resisting change. I mean, that's just inevitable. So, yeah, and so having that business process optimization team and being able to take that time and work, because we deployed in such a quick time frame in 6 months, we couldn't have foreseen that everything would be adopted right from the get-go. Does that answer your question?
I think the other things from an adoption perspective that should help is if you make them come to the well if they're thirsty, like if they can actually get insights and true data, and if it's usable, purpose-built, which is where they have got a lot of power apps as well. So if there's a purpose-built experience that they can do without actually having to feel like they're getting into an ERP, or with Power BI get the right insights, so you can actually, if you make it more valuable for them, chances are people would come as well.
You mentioned some of the benefits from the partner you brought in. What advice or specifics did you see from the partner that really accelerated things?
For sure. So one of the things I found in the dynamic space is that there's a lack of resource availability, at least within the North American market. And so having a partner that has the experience and has the breadth of people in the practice, both on the onshore and offshore model, they're bringing that experience already in the product. They're bringing the partnership with Microsoft, you know, because Infosys is one of Microsoft's most valued partners in the Microsoft space. So they're bringing that to the table. So there's that communication. We get to have insight into what's going on from a development perspective, and then as well, you know, bringing. I mean, Infosys has been there, done that. Like, do I proclaim to be an expert at implementing ERPs? No, I've done a couple in my life, you know, but they do them all the time. So they bring in the project teams and the right resourcing mix in order to be able to deliver a successful project and bring the methodology and practices, especially in an organization that, like for us, even though we were new and the people came from backgrounds, they brought that maturity. So they brought the process, they brought the relationships, you know, the experience and the resources.
We've got one last question here.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of cheat and ask three, but they're all related. I think you said you had 3,600 employees.
Yeah, we're just over 4,000 employees. It kind of fluctuates depending on what the oil market's doing. We're spinning up and spinning down fleets all the time. Within ERP, we had about 1,600 Dynamics and users.
Users, okay, that was the first real question. The second is with using Infosys as IT as a service, what's the size of your IT staff?
So, and so this, with the model, so, you know, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. IT as a service, interesting model. So I thought, oh, I'm going to come into this organization, everything is going to completely run itself, and I'm not going to have to worry about anything. I built a small management team layer. I think I have 13 people in between infrastructure and ERP. On the ERP side, I have 5. And so the people on the ERP side, they're all like senior, I call them solutions managers, but there's like senior business analysts. So they have knowledge and understanding of the business processes, and they come from some sort of ERP background. Most of my folks are actually Oracle background. And so they came in, and what they did is they basically acted as a translator or champion between the business and Infosys to take and help drive out requirements and drive development through the life cycle. So, and on the Infosys side, between the onshore-offshore model, I think there's about around 110 people, and onshore and that's infrastructure and ERP. For ERP folks that are actually on the ground onshore, there's approximately 18 to 20, and then offshore there's about another probably 20 to 25, and then the rest of the folks are a part of the, you know, SharePoint practice, the Office 365 practice, the network practice, and all that.
But they're not dedicated to.
Sorry?
They're not dedicated.
Yeah, they're fully dedicated. It's our team. I mean, see, that's the thing with the whole IT as a service thing. When I look at Infosys, it's not, I don't really see them as a vendor. Right? They're really, it's my team, right? So I have the core group of people that are my employees, but those people are there just to help work in alignment with Infosys to deliver the product.
And the last one's very quick and easy. Yeah. The size of your BPO team.
The BPO team, so it's just spinning up. Yeah, the BPO team right now is about 10 people. So we've looked for representation from all the functional tracks, and then brought in some different people. So we had a few people from the finance organization, a couple from operations come in, a couple from equipment maintenance, and then a couple from supply chain as well. And then we had a couple other business leaders. So together that's making up the core BPO team that's going out in the field and then interacting with all those various functions.
Brad, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Mohammed, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.